Hello, everyone. So when Rachel invited me to come speak to you today, she suggested I share a story that illustrates some part of the background story for me and for Holacracy. And I was thinking for a while, what should I share? And I thought, I thought of a couple of different ideas, and one of them was really uncomfortable. So I thought, well, I should share that one. That makes things interesting, right? So let me start by when I was first introduced to Zappos and just learning about you guys, and I learned that you had this really cool culture, and it was built around these 10 core values. So I was excited about the opportunity to work with a company like Zappos, and I wanted to really immerse myself and understand the culture as best I could, and so I pulled up and I started reading about the 10 core values. And as I'm reading about it, I'm getting more and more excited. It's embrace and drive change, or I love that, I do that, it just really, really resonates with me. Deliver wow through service, I really appreciate that. Pursue growth and learning, it's just every one at a time, it's just deeper and deeper, I just loved them. Until I got to core value number 10. Here I am thinking, I do all these other 9 awesome and great, and I'm really cool, and then I read number 10, and I'm like, oh, shit. So I told my wife that, I was thinking about talking at Zappos about core value number 10 and how I've struggled with that throughout life. And she got kind of confused because she had seen just a few of the core values and thought, what do you struggle with? She said, what's core value number 10? And I said, be humble. And she just started laughing. Yeah. When I was a kid, there was a moment that has stuck with my family for quite a while when my mother turned to one of our family members and she said, in raising my child, I've always wanted to make sure he had a really good, healthy self-esteem. That's been her number one priority as a parent. And he turned back to her and said, honey, do you think you may have overdone it a little? So I found this quote that really grabs me, which I can't, wrong button, there we go. Early in life, I had to choose between honest arrogance and hypocritical humility. I chose the former, Frank Lloyd Wright. I was an arrogant prick when I was younger. I feel like this is Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, my name is Brian, and I'm arrogant. I think, though, the interesting part about this is some of the story of where Holacracy came from was actually wrapped up in this, and in some ways, for me, it was a struggle with my own stance in the world, my own arrogance, and trying to find some other ground to stand on for myself. In school, my general pattern was challenging any system I got in. I'd go into different environments, pretty much any environment I was in, and I'd fight the system that was there. So I'd go in the whole school system. I thought, my God, there's got to be a better way to do education, right? So I'd fight it. I'd push against it. And it wasn't just that quiet rebel in the back. I'd sit front and center in the middle of the class and then tell the teacher all about how they were doing this wrong and how this whole system could be set up better and the education could be better. And I just fought these systems, and it continued as I got into the business world. And I really, this just rebellious streak, this rebellious nature, trying to challenge and find better systems continued. One of my first real jobs was in aerospace. I was a software developer, and I was 18. I came into this company, and one of the first things I did was say, oh my God, your technology, this is crazy, this is insane, you need to change it all, re-architect it, improve everything, this is terrible. And surprisingly, they didn't fire me really quick. I had at least a couple of supportive bosses there that understood there might be at least something behind this arrogant, obnoxious young guy. And this pattern continued again and again. I got more and more fed up with being in companies and the leadership of the companies I was within. And I was really super critical and, again, really, really arrogant. And except behind that all, I love this quote, there was something under it. I wanted this better system. There was a hunger there. I wanted to be able to show up and bring more of myself and my wisdom and bring others and everything they can offer and just improve things. And being an arrogant young guy, I thought I could do it better than whoever was in charge at the time. So that led me to start my own company. And then I realized, oh my God, this is actually really hard. Um, I suddenly felt really bad for all those poor CEOs I had worked for before that and gave a really, really hard time to, as I realized, oh my God, this is actually not so easy. It's hard to build a good system. But I still wanted to. I wanted to build this kind of a perfect system. What's the perfect organization to work within? And maybe coming from my software background too, I was looking at it from kind of all the systems at play in this environment and saying there's got to be a better way. And I wanted to build this perfect system. And, so the best thing to do if you want to build, if you're really deeply committed to that, and you don't want to do all the hard work of getting there, is just convince yourself that you already had the perfect system. And if only everyone else would just listen and do things like you think they should, then everything would be great and you'd have this perfect system. So as I was building my company and experimenting with new ways of doing things, there was also this thread through it of when things didn't work, my first temptation was just try to if only we could just fix other people, then the system would be great. I mean, certainly I'm not the only one who sometimes feels, if only we could just fix everyone else, everything would be better around here, right? And as I was growing my company and we were learning and we were experimenting, we were finding some cool ways to do things, but there was this thread through it all as I look back. This sense of just so deeply attached to having the perfect system that I couldn't even see reality in front of my face when something was in the way and when that something was me. And it eventually started really impacting our business. One of my co-founders sat me down and said, all right, look, all this really cool creative way of running a company, you're getting in the way of it. He had to say, stop, step back, drop it. Let's just go back to being an ordinary company the way every other company works. Which to me was like just death, giving up. I wanted to build a perfect company, not one like every other company around. And as I had more and more of these experiences, we lost a big client because I was so focused on pushing and driving my vision instead of really just finding the imperfections that existed in our system and improving them. I was trying to push and force it to be perfect. And Holacracy, in the very early days, version 0.1 of Holacracy, it kind of sucked, right? As most things do when they're brand new and you're developing them and building them and all that. And eventually I had to realize, I'm the problem here. I'm the thing in the way. It's my own arrogance, my own ego is the thing in the way. And there's a quote that I just love about this. Anyone seen the movie Tron? Anyone enough of a nerd to admit loving? All right, cool. So, quote from the second movie, Tron Legacy. There's this one scene. So Jeff Bridges plays both the good guy and the bad guy in this. It does a great job. Clue is the bad guy. He's the computer program that Jeff made in his own image. Jeff's character did. And at one point, Clue is programmed. His whole charter is create the perfect system, and he's doing this by suppressing others and forcing this perfect system in place. It wasn't quite that bad, but he says, I created the perfect system. And Kevin Flynn, that's Jeff Bridges' main character, the older, more wise, more seasoned one, turns to him and says, the thing about perfection, it's unknowable. It's impossible, but it's also right in front of us all the time. You wouldn't know that because I didn't know that when I created you. He's the one that programmed Clue. It's kind of an interesting scene with the younger Jeff Bridges and the older Jeff Bridges kind of squaring off in these two characters. And when he says this, there's a measure of compassion in it too, of looking back at this almost younger version of him trying to forcibly create this perfect system, and then coming to this realization that, it is imperfect, and that's part of what makes it perfect. We're in a company here, and I feel this way about my company now too. It's like, of course it's not perfect. Of course it's got its flaws, it's got its weaknesses, and that itself is part of what makes it so cool to be in, because we get to be the ones perfecting it, right? It's this idea that imperfection is imperfection, which I love in this quote. It's this sense that by just surrendering to where we are now and embracing that, and instead of judging it and arrogantly thinking we have the right ideas to make the system perfect, instead embracing the fact that we're in this journey, and this journey is unfolding. It's an evolutionary path to get more and more perfect every day, and yet that itself has this element of peace in it and perfection in it, if we just can see it, if we can see this process right in front of us all the time of always improving things. And so as I continued my journey, I realized as I built another company, the one thing I needed to protect that company from more than anything else was my own ego. And that's ultimately where the Holacracy Constitution came from. It was a document, a system created so that everyone could show up and bring their best without anyone getting in the way of this constant drive to make things more and more perfect, and to have that itself be where we are always, continually improving, continually perfecting things. That's a bit about my journey, and ultimately what I learned, there's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's yourself. So some of that, I hope, gives a glimpse into how I view Holacracy as the system that is perfect in the imperfection of where we are now and improving things constantly, including Holacracy itself. You guys will help evolve Holacracy to version 5.0 and 6.0 and whatever else as you evolve Zappos to be more and more perfect every day. So that's it. Thank you.